Welcome into another episode of the Uncommon podcast. This one is super special because I've got the person on the other side of the table that brought me into this world. A lot of people don't necessarily know that Alison Archer is my mum, who runs custom contracts, mainly because we have different surnames. It's not until the kind of penny drop moment happens at some point where they see some sort of correlation with us both. I think this podcast will kind of, I guess, like clarify that for absolutely everyone. But anyone that doesn't know Alison, she's been a paralegal for God knows how many years.
30 years. Over.
30 years. She runs a company called Custom Contracts, specialising in anything in the kind of legal side, also deals with debt collection as well. And, you know, you were the person that inspired me to come into business. You have been in business, what, nearly a decade now?
Mm-hmm.
Getting close to that, yeah.
9 years this year.
Yeah. And, you know, when I'm 26 now, I was roughly coming out of school, going out of college when Alison had actually started in business. She was buzzing about all over the place, going to all these meetings in Glasgow, which I didn't understand at the time. And yeah, you've had obviously, we'll get through all the kind of impact that you've had on myself in terms of my journey. But yeah, have I left anything out?
Don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I've brought you into this world. Yeah, you and Melissa. And yeah, it's been good to watch your journey though as well, like in terms of business. So yeah.
It'd be good to get that from your perspective as well today. Probably some stuff that people won't know about me that I'm sure will unravel as well. But yeah, for anyone that doesn't like, in terms of Alison's journey, obviously I've seen it firsthand, being literally speaking every single day. Only literally moved out a few years ago as well, so we've literally been kind of hand in hand with our business journeys. But ultimately, you know, I watched my mum go from nothing to 20 grand months, bring on your first few full-time staff. You then scaled that back, which I'm sure we'll speak about at some point. You've got, you know, some pretty big goals, pretty big vision in terms of helping single parents, which I'm sure we'll unpack today as well. But also pre that, like you worked for a huge oil company, you managed 70 plus staff. There's a lot of things that people don't know from a credibility perspective, most likely because you're too humble. You don't like to come across as you're bragging or that you want to talk about these sorts of things. But you know, you've got immense leadership ability as well, and you're what I would class as my sage. You know, I mean, I come to you for all my any of the challenges I've got, and I need a clear answer that's no bullshit. It's going to tell me how it is. You're the person I come to. So, in terms of starting out in business, what did that look like back then for you?
Scary as fuck, basically. Like, because I'd always been an employee, worked since I was 15, got made redundant, if you could call it that, which was a big shock for me because I thought I would be there forever, basically, because I did love what I did. And when I got that brown envelope as such, I was like, what the fuck am I actually going to do? Because I'd never been out of a job. I'd been in an oil company like 13 years at a time. And quite a few people had said, like Craig had said to me, start up your own business. And I'm like, what, how does that even work? Like, you know, you see people that say they're in business and the perceptions online of people in business is that has been their whole life. They were brought up with that life. They have loads of money. And I'm thinking, how could I even do it? And then after 6 months of taking a break from everything, I think that was the first summer that I'd ever spent with you and Melissa because I'd always worked. So, yeah, I realised it would have given me more freedom to do that as well and be around more for you and Melissa as well. So yeah, I thought, how hard could it be? Holy fuck, like 9 years in, it's like every day is a learning curve. Still learn, but it's a great, I feel good with it. First few years, absolute. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, all that kind of thing. But the first few years was really difficult. It still can be difficult, but you learn from your mistakes, etc. But yeah.
What were some of the like biggest challenges during that time period?
Excuse me. Trusting people. Because all of a sudden when you start a business, all these people come out the woodwork and you're like, oh my God, like these people seem so nice and they look as if they want to help me. And I realised that after a period of time that it was only there. They only came to me for their own agenda, which I struggled with because I've never been like that. I've never been around people like that prior to that. I've always had kind of small circles, so I've never had people thinking they're out to get me for something or whatever. And even getting signed into an MLM, you know, like, oh, I felt so stupid when I realised about that. I got past it, but it's like all these things, you know, that was my biggest learning curve. And also, it wasn't easy. Starting a business is not, you get everything ready. Like I had my website ready, business cards, you know, my computer, and like thinking, right, okay, that's me, all done. And then I was like, hey, how do I get clients? So and I was like, fuck, I need to go out and try and find clients.
But how did you actually, because the thing is, like, post-COVID, your whole business and life changed as well, because it was, you were initially pre-COVID, everything was in person, so it was, I think as well, like, when you're saying about, like, the perception online is that everyone's kind of in business and been in business for years, and it's kind of what they've been brought into through a friend or a family or their parents, whatever. Whereas now it's probably more common to see a lot of people that were never in business that just kind of gave it a crack, whereas 9 years ago it wouldn't have felt that way either. So like, how did you go and get clients?
I think I just went online and thought, right, and I started watching like YouTube videos, Googling about networking events, and that was everything that was coming up. And Craig, to be honest, even though Craig's an employee, he went to one networking event. And I had said to him, oh, I've came across this BNI. And he's like, he says, I was in it for 2 years. He says, I think you might last max 2 years. He's like, I don't know if you'll like it or not. And I was like, well, I have to try something. I tried one. I think the very first one I'd found a women's one, which was Scottish Women in Business, which was actually really good. And that's where I met a few people that ended up in my life for a few years. And then I went into a BNI as well. And that's how I started. And I'm actually like, I think a lot of people think I'm a really confident, extroverted person. I'm the complete opposite. So going into a room full of people was the worst feeling ever for me. You know, I when I worked in the oil company, I could stand up and talk in front of all the sales guys or directors and so easily. But when I had to stand up in like networking events and things, like, oh God, did not like it whatsoever. But it was just, obviously I kept going back. I had to keep doing it, meeting up with people, even though my stomach sank every time. So
when you say you had to keep doing it, well, why did you believe you had to?
Because I knew it was the only way that I could get to meet new people. And I'm like, okay, someone will show me the way. You know, and help me to get new clients. And because I did not have a clue. One thing I didn't have a clue about.
Which I guess as well, like, I mean, a lot of people that are coming to the Uncommon, that's very much like their main problem is lead flow, which also we have all our kind of processes now for going and generating leads. But I think when Andrew Graham joined the group and he was generating all his leads from events, it was kind of like, what the fuck? Like in this day and age, you're going and hitting events, and you know, he's absolutely fucking crushed it. And I think that kind of brought kind of like, because Lauren speaks a lot about that kind of like the older ways of doing things that people have just kind of put to the side because it's easier to post content or it's easier to go and just message a bunch of people on socials. But to go into an actual room full of people, speak to others, it's a completely different ballgame. But like back then, like, you don't know what you don't know. That was the only route for really generating business.
Yeah, it was the only way, you know, and like getting, I mean, I got quite big on LinkedIn a way back then because I did post consistently. I got loads of connections and I'm still in contact, as I say, like with people through LinkedIn as well that I do trust. But I would even walk into a room, and if I did not get a good vibe, I would excuse myself for the toilet and be like, I'm off. And I would just find the nearest exit. I hated it. Absolutely hated it.
How many times did you do that?
Oh, I couldn't actually tell you. Like, I did look like that was my worst thing. Hated it.
Yeah.
So
Which I think like in hindsight, when you gain the experience, you do realise that gut instinct usually is pretty right. And it probably would be a waste of time. But it's being able to know at that time, you don't know if it's just the fear and the fact that you've never done it before, or if you genuinely are walking into a room that's going to be full of people just trying to sell you shit.
Yeah.
Which I think is the trust-based trusting people. Like, I think, I mean, I've done like 80 episodes now, and when I speak about challenges, especially to begin with, I've not had a single person say about trusting people, but I think that everyone experiences it though. They've probably just not seen it from that light, because I think you've always been close in that circle. I'd imagine a lot of people going into business are the same, but you do have to put yourself out there and just and trust in people. And obviously you said MLM, the multi-level marketing like scheme, like you had every right to feel uncertain of a lot of these people, but at the same time you don't have anyone else to bounce off of. So like with the actual doing that scenario, it's
the thing is it's a lot of it has defined on like who on my business journey. It wouldn't be, as part of my business journey. And probably like now when I look back on everything that's happened over the years, I am actually thankful for a lot of things, because you do, like, I can, I'll never say to somebody, don't do that, don't sign up with an MLM or whatever. Everybody's different. I'll talk about my experiences around it, and what people have said to me, and then I realise they're talking bullshit.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It was actually something that Connor Malone said to me a few months ago actually, and he was like, do you not think sometimes how fucking lucky we got to meet each other so early on in our journey? Like, met Connor when I was 21, met Lawrence when I was 22 or 23, met like Andy, like off a random, like Ollie Briggs literally scraped a random bunch of emails and Andy just happened to be the first one on the list. Like, it's crazy when you actually think, like, I feel very grateful, but I often, because that was how I just got lucky, like in terms of that initial start of the journey, whereas you had to go through like literally years of shit to find your people, which is, I'd assume, is what majority of people actually have to go through.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like, I mean, I'm grateful for the people I did meet, learned lessons from the other people that I wasn't grateful around meeting. It just makes your business journey a bit more interesting. And don't get me wrong, there has been times where I'm like, why am I even doing this?
Yep.
I'll just go and get a job.
Yep.
But I talked myself out of that.
Yeah. How did you actually start getting to like 10K months and stuff like that then?
I think probably believing that I could actually do. I think you end up with a bit of, when you start explaining what you're doing, people don't really, like, I didn't come into business actually to start doing contracts, to be honest, because I didn't know if there would be a market for it. Like, would people really need contracts? So obviously the debt collection side, I've done that. I'm a paralegal for insolvency, so I don't really call myself a debt collector as such. So, but that it's debt collection and overdue invoices. It was when I got to know everybody, and they were like, "Oh, we've got invoices that are not paid either," and I thought, God, this is actually massive. So yeah, I was quite lucky, I think. I mean, I had someone that came to me, the window and door company, and they were owed 334 grand. And I was like, holy fuck. But that then made me question. I was like, how did you even get to that amount of money being owed to you?
Yep.
I'm like, let me see your contracts. And they're like, I haven't got any. I'm like, how? And then I realised about the market for that. Yep. So that 334,000, I did actually collect that. I collected that over a period of 6 months. And I think that gave me a huge confidence boost as well. I had loads of other clients then coming on board when they saw the results because I would post about it.
Yeah.
Then I realised about the market for contracts because people didn't have them as well. And don't get me wrong, like 8 years ago, my prices were like ridiculously cheap
Yeah.
as well. So like everybody was like coming at me. And of course I got a coach. I did have a business coach. And it was like meeting people through her as well. And she did teach me a few things. Like she did teach me, I think when I look back, it was everything's down to mindset and believing in yourself. That's one of the first things, because it's all right getting all your sales systems and all that in place. But see, if your mind's fucked up, to me, you're not going to move forward. So it is like, I think the more clients I took on, the more confident I got. I am fully confident in what I do, everything that I do, but I wasn't confident as a person. So I would never, I mean, we've had this conversation loads of times where I'm like, no, I can't say that, it comes across as salesy. And it absolutely doesn't, you know, but it's my beliefs around certain things.
Where do you think that crossover is between those two? So like you believe 100% in what you can do, but you don't, like, that can be difficult, I think, to, like, if you try to trace it back to like what actually is the difference in both of those for you.
In terms of confidence in doing the job and not being confident as a person. For me, I just started working on myself. Like really, it didn't matter how many times people like you would say to me, or even Craig, they'd be like Craig would, I remember like a couple of times Craig was like, I didn't realise how knowledgeable you were. And I'm like, well, you wouldn't, because I don't talk about it as such. Like I don't. And he encouraged me loads, you know. And I'm like, I bet you're just saying that, you know. Even if you said things to me, I'm like, I bet you're just saying that. I think it was just, I had to work on my own mindset and just believing, you know, that people, I think from a growing up aspect and like even through my teens and things like that, I used to think, do they like me? Do they like want to really talk to me and like all that kind of thing? And that probably progressed through adulthood as well. So whereas now I couldn't really give a fuck if somebody didn't like me. And that is all down to me working on myself. Like, why did I think like that? And I probably can't think of a particular reason. That's just like me growing up and all that kind of stuff. But it's being more confident and being able to run a business. Being more confident in getting more clients. But I'm 100% confident in what I do. So it's like, it is all down to me working on myself, on my own mindset.
And the thing is, there's a lot of people that like will be feeling that way, but won't know how to work on that, like work on yourself on the back end. So like, how did you actually go about doing that?
Probably, there was one thing that one person did pick up on that many years ago, and she turned around and said to me, "Have you ever heard of Jim Rohn?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "For personal development, start watching Jim Rohn." And I was like, "Okay." So I started listening to him, and I was like, "Oh my God, his voice. Like, even just his voice is like mental, crazy, lovely." And I started listening to him. So then because I didn't know the things were available online. I'd never ever done that before. Started listening to, who else? Warren Buffett. I liked him as well. Tony Robbins. Who was the female ones? Sorry. What else? Books. Started listening to books, podcasts. I think the very first book was The Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. That was the very first book I was given. And it did actually open my mind to a few things. And I think that's one thing I did realise then, that it was a lot to do with your mind and the way you were brought up and all that kind of stuff.
So I think you got brought up in a very logical household, like in terms of Like if I think about Granda and like everything was
Mhm.
very like by the book, logical reason for everything. Whereas like a lot of the stuff in relation to like Jim Rohn and Tony Robbins and a lot of these is like believing in yourself regardless of the proof that you even have to
Yeah.
believe in yourself. And I could imagine like Granda being like, fucking, I used to talk some amount of shit. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, just not even like, and it sounding like woo woo to him.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of these things feel like initially until you
Mhm.
start to
Yeah.
pick
So it was just me probably opening my mind to actually watching and listening to different things.
Yeah.
But Jim Rohn, he was probably, and I'll always be grateful for that person that told me about Jim Rohn.
Yeah.
You know, because even now I'll still go on and listen to him as well. So yeah, it's just believing that, you know, is this possible? And the way, like, as you and Melissa know as well, like, I have always believed anyway, there is always a solution to something.
Yeah.
It's not a case of, oh my God, this has happened.
Hmm.
You know, there's always a solution. We can fix it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting because if we think now when we look at business, there's so many other easier ways to go out and not have to put yourself in your comfort zone to go and generate deals and opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But also it's actually much easier as well in the online space to mask how you actually feel about yourself and the confidence.
Yeah.
Whereas in person you can feel it from a mile away. Even I'll catch myself sometimes now because like running the Uncommon, I don't really go to events anymore, or I've not been at an event for years that hasn't been either my events or a client's event where I know I know of someone or I know the people there running it. And it probably would, as a result, I've probably got like a warped reality of how confident I feel in a room because it's always my people.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, that warped reality, that will translate into me going into rooms of people that I don't know and being able to speak to anyone. Like you said this on when we went for dinner with Ali, like earlier on in the week. I used to not speak to anyone.
Yeah,
Whereas
very introverted.
it's very different now.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess is just, it comes back to the beliefs piece. So in terms of like getting to that 10K a month mark, one of the things some people won't understand is like the actual payment model for debt collection. So you don't charge anything up front,
No.
and then you get a percentage on collection.
Commission, yeah. Only if any monies are collected, yeah.
And what is the percentage variation?
It's just straight 15%. That is.
And if it's, because remember you explaining you used to have a model that was like a younger debt, older debts, has that just been scrapped now?
Yeah, I was just making it more complicated than what it was.
Yeah.
Than it needed to be, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I did just to have a limit that I wouldn't take anything under £1,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
But when COVID hit, every penny counted for every business, and I thought, why have I actually put a limit on that?
Yeah.
So I waived that then, and I'm still the same. Like I'll get emails or messages and say the debt's only like £400. I'm like, that's fine. Like,
yeah,
absolutely fine. You know, every penny counts for every business. So yeah.
And a lot of people, obviously you've seen this with the big client that you had recently, a lot of people will hold off just in complete hope and hope that they're going to get the cash in. And then sometimes you can like leave it ticking on far too long. Obviously you can't go into details about this client, but it's maybe something that's important for people to understand, because if they're sitting on a large amount of cash that is owed and they're kind of sitting in a land of hope, you can kick that can too far down the road to the point that the company just goes into liquidation, administration, whatever, and you never see that fucking cash.
Yeah, and it's quite frustrating for me, but obviously it's not my money as such, but it's like, yeah, this one particular client, I've been speaking to him since last June, and even at that point, it was like six figures, 800 grand or something like that. And I'm like, what? You know, like, how long has this been outstanding? And it was like for the December before. And I'm like, why are you sitting on it? Oh, I know them, and you know, I've done business for years, and I'm like, but there's obviously a reason for them not paying. He's like, yeah, I know, but I'll hold off for another little bit. They've made a payment arrangement. I'll see if they stick to it. I'm like, cool, okay. And then it was when September, I think me and Craig were in Tenerife actually for our anniversary. And he messaged me and he was like, right, okay, I think I need you to do this. And at that point, it was up to £1.1 million. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, yeah, it was crazy. And it ended up, they set up a payment arrangement. I was having meetings with them online. I just wouldn't let it go because I thought, this is a huge amount of money for my client. And I did actually say to my client, I was like, you've obviously, I says, they're now taking advantage of your good nature.
Yep.
You know, they have done for a long time. So it ended up, the guy that I was chasing, he actually phoned my client at one point and he said, see your woman, she's got the tenacity of a mongoose. And he's like, but see, when this is all sorted, can she actually come and work for me? I was like, absolutely not. Because I mean, you don't pay your invoices. So. But anyway, he got 100 grand in. But then we knew there was something going on. And they have actually went into administration.
Yeah.
So he's lost out on 910,000. 910,000. I actually got an email from him yesterday. So I'm dealing with all the administrators and things like that. And he has actually emailed me and said, by the way, I think we're going to get some money. I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. He says, because their accounts obviously all got frozen when this all happened. And their suppliers have actually paid money in that they were owed into their bank account, which was frozen. So it's all been held in another account. Don't know how much it is, but he is actually going to get something. I says, well, fingers crossed it's a decent amount for you. The one thing he did say to me is like, I'm in a fortunate position that my business won't shut down. He's like, will it sting? Yeah, absolutely. But there was 162 creditors and we know of at least half of them shutting down. They've had to close the doors because of the money that they were owed just from this one company.
That's mad.
So yeah, please don't waste time chasing your invoices. Get them dealt with. You know?
Yeah, this is the stuff that people won't, like if I'm thinking, you know, all the people in the Uncommon, for example, a lot of people listening to this will be similar levels whether it's, you know, you're doing your first few grand a month all the way up to doing $1 million a month. It's like this sort of stuff. Like we've had clients in the group that, you know, are owed a few grand, for example, from someone, and you don't know who the fuck to turn to or who to talk to, or, you know, taking it to a debt collector. It's like you think a debt collector is someone that goes and chaps indoors, and it feels very, especially if you do know the person and you maybe they're going through a shit time and you feel bad and you end up just delaying it. And the longer you delay it, it's just it is a brutal position. You know?
And I always believe in mediation as well. You know, I've had people in the past who have known on both sides, and they'll contact me and say, so-and-so has me money, what will I do? I'm like, listen, we can all get ourselves in situations, as you know, we'll probably talk about, I've had myself in that situation where I'm like, there is always a story behind someone not being able to afford to pay their bills. So I would just mediate with people, you know, and I would have empathy if they're genuine. You know, I always have, I'm not a person that goes in harsh, you know, unless they're an arsehole, you know, and come back and you know they're just a professional debtor or just dodgy kind of thing.
Professional debtor, what does that mean?
They know how to work the system, basically. You know, they do it with everybody. They think they can't be touched.
Is that a thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's mad.
Especially limited companies.
Yeah.
Because they can potentially just go and set up another limited company, shut their business down and start again.
Yeah.
Leaving, we both know someone that had 85 grand of debt and she's got away with not paying it because she bankrupted herself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mental. What I'm curious about as well is like you got to that stage, right? So you're hitting 10k months, mainly through the debt collection, but also starting to get some contracts up.
Yeah.
Word of mouth just continued to compound. Your marketing inputs at the time were going to networking events, posting on LinkedIn and sending video messages, which I don't think a lot of people knew that you'd done that before me and you taught me it, which is funny. Because that was also how I got Young Entrepreneurs Network at the time off the ground. But you just continued to do that, and you got to your minimum was like 22K or thereabouts, wasn't it? Yeah. Well, basically just being solo. So like at that time, did you feel like it was all working out? Did you feel like it was making sense now? Was it like, what was the kind of thought process around that time?
I think you get a bit complacent.
Yep.
I think I most definitely did. And you're thinking, this is actually happening, like starting to see a bit of cash and all that coming in. But then you start over like spending and all that kind of thing, thinking you've made it, whatever. But then it doesn't become consistent, But at the time, it actually gave me faith, thinking, do you know, I have done the right thing. I have, I've started my business and it does work, if you do the right thing. But it was all about having that consistency, making sure I was still doing what I was doing. And as I say, you then become a bit complacent. Yep. And it's like, I've not got time to send video messages this week. And then that day or week turns into months. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I thought the rhythm of doing it as well, the habit of doing it. Yeah. Like one skip day then becomes, like you said, days and then weeks and then months, and then getting back on the bandwagon feels too difficult as well. Obviously you got to a point where you hired a couple of staff. The main kind of overarching lesson I took from watching it from the outside was that you hired staff that done the work on the back end, but you then also had to take your eye off the ball with the front end with all the marketing and sales, and that kind of put you in a bit of a sticky position.
Very sticky position, yeah. And it was, I mean, I always still take full accountability for that. I made the decisions, but you do listen to other people, and it was like, get staff. And I'm thinking, do I not need a salesperson first? No, get staff in. They can work with the salespeople and get an office. Yep. And I'm like, sounds pretty cool. It's like showing that my business is growing, and yeah, did it all. And it went like tits up, I was like, get investments. Cause I'm like, how am I supposed to pay for all this? Get investments. I'm like, how? Why? Like, I just couldn't get my head around it, but at the same time, I'd done it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, they know better. They've been in business like all their lives. They know what they're talking about. And I'm not saying, well, yeah, it was the biggest mistake probably in my business life that I've made, because I really suffered for that. Had to pay the staff off, and lost all my money, basically. So yeah, that was tough.
Yeah. You've turned it around now as well, which I know also will unpack as well. But I think I wanted us to speak about this today because there's people out there that will take on staff, take on office, their business is growing, and the big overarching lesson that I took from that is made sure that the uncommon is continuing to grow is that no matter what, when you're bringing on team members or you're having to do stuff on the back end of the business, you never stop marketing, you never stop selling, because if you do, it's the lifeblood of the business. It's what literally generates the ability to even bring on those staff.
Yeah.
And I think you can build a nice reserves pot as well, which again I was guilty of, even seeing it from yourself. It's like if I think back to not last year, but not last year, but the year before, like we had 70 grand in reserves, feeling comfortable, thinking I made it, even after seeing what had happened to others as well. And then before you know it, you blink and you spent 40 grand on a coach and you've took on all these extra staff. And I remember sitting in Spain and seeing 7 grand in my business bank and being like, what the fuck? How the fuck have I ended up here? And even that's even after me fucking watching similar happen to you.
I think I had the fear when you actually said, could you look over this contract for this coach? I'm like paying 15 grand for the first, and I was like, fuck me. 15 grand. But obviously, yeah. But I must also say about like me losing everything and whatever, like what a lot of people don't realise, like Craig has like been my biggest supporter in business along with yourself. And he paid my staff's wages for 2 months.
Yeah.
He helped me, because I don't think people realise until you're in the situation what that actually does to you
Yep.
as a person. The guilt, you
Yep.
know, fucking, it was horrendous. I've never felt feelings like it.
It strips you of like all your ego,
Yeah.
all your like, we're speaking about confidence. It can definitely like dent in all of that. And I think it creates a level of raging pessimism. Like you never think you're going to get back to that point as well. I mean, anyone that's read Psychology of Money, the main lesson I took from that book was like, when things are on the up, you never think they're going to come down. You think you're fucking untouchable.
Yeah.
When things are on the down, you never think they're going to get back up. And I know you definitely felt that way on both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aye, absolutely.
If we were to explain without going into like crazy detail, the whole taking on investment piece, I feel like people need to understand this because it gets thrown about quite a lot. There's risk associated with it. My kind of main lessons I took from you was that you took on investment from people that you didn't really know, but they had money and they believed in what it was that you were building. But you also, like with the cash that you were taking on, you were investing that cash into back end stuff as opposed to front end.
Yeah.
But you weren't taking on investment to then go and do ads or to generate more leads. You weren't taking on investment to bring on a sales guy. You weren't doing it to fuel the growth of a company, which when I then took on investment a couple of years, well, a year or two later, you were probably like, fuck you, Dorothy, you should be taking on investment. But the main lessons I took from you in that journey was that like, if I'm taking on investment, it needs to be for cash generating things. So I took on investment to obviously bring on Jack and be able to pay his salary as a full-time closer, but also to have 4 months worth of ad spend and also cash to pay for an editor to start pushing content. So like my lessons from that was like, I'm taking on investment, it needs to be growth orientated investment, non-fucking negotiable.
Yeah. I think the difference was then is you had the right people around you.
Yep.
I didn't, basically, and I didn't know any differently. And I always say you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
You know, so yeah.
Yep. I think as well, like the people piece is kind of what Connor said. Like we got so lucky, and I think like Lawrence is someone that like fucking love Lawrence to bits. Done so much. Also, the last episode I actually done was with Lawrence, and I said that he, besides yourself, is single-handedly had the biggest impact on my life from a positive lens. And it comes from the fact that he had the business experience, the know-how, but also the right values. And obviously he was the investor, which I think too is like the person makes all the difference. I remember saying to Lawrence like it was 10 grand at the time that he invested, and I remember thinking, just for context, mate, like see if we can't pay this, like what happens, like, and because that's the fear that you have. That's what and people aren't willing to say it, especially to an investor that's believing in your business. It's like what the owner doesn't believe in. Like it can be weird. Whereas I just didn't understand the consequences of like it, and from seeing it with you, I needed to understand it further. And I remember him just being like, mate, you make an investment in something, you need to be willing to lose it all. Like I'm not investing money that I don't have.
Yeah.
And I'm more than happy to put this cash in because I believe in you and I believe in the business. Like I trust that it's going to work out. If it doesn't, then we'll learn from it and it'll be okay. And I remember just feeling the weight off my shoulders with that shit and being like, wow, like that is actually like got so fucking lucky. Whereas for yourself, obviously it wasn't exactly the same.
No, and it is lessons learned. The thing is, Craig invested in me way at the very beginning, put money into my business to get me off the ground as well, because like obviously he believes believes in everything that I do. And I'm like sitting with like 10 grand in my bank at that point thinking, what do I do with this? Like, what? You know, and it was like, he's like, I have every faith in you, do what you have to do. Obviously at that point, I didn't really know what I had to do as well. So I'm always be grateful for that. And then you've obviously invested 20 grand into my business as well and helped me massively with like, the whole of the Uncommon guys helped me massively because I'm 54. You guys are totally, like, I'm in awe of most of you guys, like the way you all do stuff. And like even like yesterday I turned up with my Apple Mac, and I'm like, I actually don't know how to use this. And that's the first I've ever had to say something like that, because I'm usually quite savvy with stuff.
Mm.
But all the guys in the Uncommon, when they do stuff, and I'm like, I wonder if I can do that.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, yeah, they all inspire me with what the loads of things that they do. So, and like you investing in my business, you know, I've got every faith that I'm going to get to that end vision that I have, my end goal. And it's, you know, with ads, I would never have done ads, like ever, because I always thought the legal industry, like who does ads, you know? But it's proven that they work.
The mad thing is about like the ad side of things as well is like for you always went out there and worked for your leads, like in terms of like going out there and putting the time in, whereas ads is you're paying for the leads, which is, it can be scary. Don't get me wrong. I know it can be scary being like, fucking, I'm spending, is it 30 quid a day you were spending initially? It's like fuck man, like this is, but then when you start getting the text messages and people are coming through and you phone them and they're real people that actually need your service, and it's like, what the fuck, this is mad.
Because me and Craig would be sitting at night and I'm like, oh no, I've got another one. Oh, who's it? And then I'm messaging you and I'm like, I've had two in one night. Like, what's that all about? But yeah, it's quite cool. I'm restarting them again. So
yeah, I know. I'm excited when I get back on after your 3 weeks in Thailand and enjoying your time away. Which is awesome. But yeah, obviously one in terms, obviously you spoke about that kind of vision piece. You're wanting to sell. That's also what you're wanting to do. So in terms of like the vision that we've created together around it is very much you've always, until you took on the initial couple of team members, you've always done everything. Yeah. Whereas if we can have a market machine that generates leads, you're obviously going to be the one closing the deals and then completing the work. And it is literally as simple as that with the three facets. We get the lead flow super consistent, which it was pre-Thailand in terms of the ad side of things. The ads back on. Sales wise, we've already identified multiple ways we can optimize the sales process. Once that is optimized, we can actually be in a position as well where we can bring on a sales guy, because you've got consistent lead flow, which is one thing that you're always worried about as well, which a lot of businesses again don't understand. It's like when you're having to go out and generate leads yourself, you don't really have a machine. You don't have anything fucking sellable either, because how can you teach someone to go to events and do these? It's like, what the fuck. And whereas, like the whole front end, like for us now, for example, like I do content, like podcasts and content, but the ads are on autopilot. Jack's closing the deals. He closed fucking 3 deals on Thursday there, like in one day, which was just fucking mad. Yeah. It's like $7,500 worth of deals, which is like amazing. And then all we're having to do now is deliver, but then we're kind of bottlenecking on the delivery side. But again, we can improve that. Whereas from a business perspective on your end, that probably seemed a little far away until, again, everything's downstream of leads. So we get leads cooking through. Oh shit, I've got these fucking leads. Then you start closing the leads. You're like, oh shit. But then I need to do the work. And then there's more leads coming through. And then you quickly realise, like, okay, that I can actually get to a place where we've got staff involved and we can fucking scale this and exit.
Yeah. Because people, I can't stay, because Craig has said to me, he's like, if you sell the business or when you sell the business, would you stay on as a consultant? I says, I would prefer to walk away fully because then my mind space isn't fully clear. Yeah. You know, it's just, but I have been in a lucky position where the work that I get, probably about 90% of the work that I got through previously is all word of mouth. Yep. And I have been really grateful for that. The other 10% is like through Instagram and TikTok, which has been mental. So I can't sell me. So, you know, I don't come with the sale package. So, and obviously that's how we ended up talking about the ads and, like, you know, getting everything sorted basically.
For sure. The content side of things is interesting because all the leads that you do end up hopping on the phone with, it's like, I've seen your videos. I mean, how many videos have you done? Have you ever actually went back and looked?
No, actually I've not.
It's got to be.
I have done a few hundred, a good few hundred.
I was going. It's probably close to 1,000, maybe across all the platforms.
Both platforms, yeah.
And for you, like, that's one thing again. Like, you've just you don't overthink. You just do it. You just get in front of camera. You don't like go put together any crazy scripts or anything like that. You literally, you have an idea, you hop on, you shoot it. No fancy editing, and it gets you business.
Yeah, and it's, what was it somebody said? I think it was when I was talking to Ali last week, and he's like, "Yeah, your content's like talking head, a talking head," and I was like, "What? Is a talking head?" And he's like, "Well, it's just you talking into your phone." And I went, "Oh yeah, aye, that's right." And so yeah, everything's, a lot of it's ad hoc.
Yep.
You know, after having conversations with my clients and things, or potential clients, and yeah, it's just because I would used to look at everybody's content on Instagram that's in uncommon, and it's all amazing content.
Yep.
You know, edited, subtitles and everything on them. Mine is nothing like that. And at one point I did think I should really get these done like professionally, like
Yeah.
kind of thing. But because a lot of people that I was talking to, it was all trades guys,
Yeah.
you know, and they are so down to earth as well. Like what you get, what you see is what you get, you know, what you hear from them on the phone is what, like, they're so down to earth. So I'm like, why would I change that? You know, because people want to get to know me at the end of the day. I swear on them. I don't care. You know, I've had a few assholes on TikTok saying, why would I have you as a lawyer that has a potty mouth? I'm like, well, fuck off. Like, don't listen to my videos. You know, so whereas 99% are like, I love your content, you're normal.
Yeah.
Because the legal industry can be perceived as the total opposite.
Yeah.
You know, very formal. So I just want to show people that I'm not like that. I'm approachable 100%. You know,
because I think on my side, it's like, obviously I've always, like, I've been lucky to just always have you in my corner with that sort of stuff. Whereas for, like, if I was to genuinely go and look to get a contract done, or if I need someone to go and collect some sort of debt, like the stereotype around the people on the other end of that is very much suited and booted. Going to charge you fucking 250 quid an hour. You need to pay for the consultation. Like, it's very, it's the polar opposite. So you're breaking that barrier.
Aye. Completely different. Yeah.
One thing you said earlier on, which I wrote down just to come back to, you said, you know, I don't want to come across as salesy. That was one thing that you said earlier on. And I'm looking at this from a lens of like,
I should put that in my bio. I always say that.
You could do 100%. I do think this is something that a lot of people will resonate with though, because a lot of people don't, you know, they've never been in sales before. Similar to you, it's like, okay, how do I go and generate people that actually, you know, leads? And when you generate leads, you have to hop on a call with them and you have to convert them. And, you know, way back when, I remember when I used to take those calls when I had no sales experience, and it was like, this is what I do. And you just break it all down, and then you'd hope on the other end they go, yep, that sounds good, that sounds like what I want. But it just never would ever be that way.
No.
And I know you were the same as me in terms of like, what the fuck's going on? Like, how do I get people to buy? Like, I don't understand. Whereas you understand sales now, but you still feel you have some beliefs.
I mean, even up until a year ago, I would not give my prices on a call. Like, I would never say, so the cost is blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'll send you an email with a quote. You know, unless they said, could you give me a cost around that? And I'm like, yeah, of course. But my stomach would sink. You know, like, I was so bad.
Why do you think that was around the pricing?
I don't know. Actually, I'm not, like, because people would be like, see if somebody said, yeah, that's no bother. I'd be like, God, he's fine with it. And then I would get other ones be like, oh no, I can't afford that. So I think initially it was the rejection.
Yep.
Like, taking it like personally, you know, because I do always believe if you don't sell, it's because you haven't shown the true value of that price. So then I'm thinking, right, okay, my conversation wasn't enough. You know, I haven't actually given them a clear vision of what they're going to get. But it wasn't. It was just like, if somebody couldn't afford it, they genuinely couldn't afford it. Because a lot of potential clients that I had in the past that said that to me have all come back.
Yeah.
And they've like, Alison, I've put this money together. Can you still do this? Yeah, of course I can.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just, initially it was a rejection.
Yeah.
The rejection piece and taking it personally.
Yep.
You know, and thinking people are going to go away and talk at me and be like, do you hear the fucking prices she charges? when it's not, you know, it's just, yeah. Let me know.
I think the rejection piece is a huge piece, I think, for a lot of people, because like they, like you said, they take it personally. It's linked to their identity. It's linked to, for me, it was like being made fun of at school and stuff like that. It all correlated to, like, you know, if someone rejected me, it was back to being rejected at school or being an outcast, and it felt really uncomfortable. Whereas you do get to a point where, one, it forces you to become better at those things. So like back then for me, I felt really uncomfortable, so I was like, I never want to feel this way again. So I'm going to fucking learn everything I can about sales. Because I think a lot of people as well, again, people think that I'm very extroverted and that's my natural nature, whereas it's not. I prefer to, I'd rather just sit and work for 6 hours and not necessarily speak to anyone and just get stuff done. So I had to force myself to learn that stuff. I'm so glad I did now, because I've got the skill set and I'm teaching others as well. But the rejection piece, like, I think about it with Jack as well. Like sometimes when at the very beginning, when Jack would, you know, phone a bunch of leads and two of them would be like, who are young and lazy? I didn't inquire for you. Like, what are you even talking about? And Jack would be like, and they fucking have, but it's like the people are so rude as well, and it can really fucking knock you for 10. You're like, what the fuck is going on? I remember, you know, me and Jack having experiences where, remember Jack went on a sales call with a guy, and Jack's like shooting the shit, doing what Jack does. He loves rapport building, hops on, and they're shooting the shit for 2 minutes. The guy's face goes straight, and he's like, right, cut the fucking sales shite. Tell me the price. And Jack was like, what? And he'd only been in sales for a few months, and it was like the hardest, like, what the fuck? Like, I'd never had that happen to me. Yeah. So I was like, that is just so fucking unlucky. I've been able to work through like what he should have done in that situation, etc. But also, it did make him feel like shite, because it's like you I could imagine you start sweating. You're like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck just happened? What did I even say to that? So yeah, I get it, man. The rejection piece is huge.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, like, as you know as well, like, I would do everything I do for nothing. See, if I didn't have my end goal, I'd be like, I'll just do that, because you need to, because what is ultimately going to happen is a lot of my clients, they have to feel the pain for them to phone me and be like, right, okay, this shit that you said was going to happen has happened. Like, what do I do about it? So I'll work out how we sort that first. And then we'll start talking again about contracts, because it's like, you just don't want, because you've been through when you've been through pain in your business, you don't want other people to feel that pain. So yeah, it's just unfortunately one of those situations.
I think as well, like the pain, one thing from a sales perspective that you definitely don't do, and it's because it's not in your nature, but I think if someone was to be in your industry and sell a lot of contracts, it would be trying to recreate that pain or create that pain before it's happened. But I know that's just not in your nature to drive pain into, you know, imagining this stuff happening. And people do need to go away and experience, you know, with the trades guys. Like, we also run the trades cohort. You're helping coach the trades guys in there, and like half of them, you know, aren't even taking a deposit.
Yeah, and that just gives me the fear.
Yeah,
you know, it's like, you have a business to run, and the trades guys, they have materials to go and buy and order. They have subbies to maybe contract in, you know, their time, you know, they're setting up a full schedule for a job, even if it's to go and fit a kitchen or fit a bathroom. They all work the same way. And then the customer cancels like the night before, you know, and they'll phone me. I mean, I had a guy on LinkedIn, you know, he was supposed to start a job on the Monday. This was about a year and a half ago. And he'd spoke to me a number of times. And he's like, I just can't afford it. Like, I just can't, like, I'm restarting all the time. And I was always kind of keeping in touch with him. And the job got cancelled on the Friday. And he tried to kill himself.
Oh.
And I was like, my God, like nothing is worth, like, I felt so bad for him, that he had actually, went to that extent,
Yeah.
because a job was cancelled and, that was the extreme, story I've ever heard. But it's like, yeah, it's people's livelihoods.
100%, man. I
Yeah.
feel like if you've got like fucking kids, roof over your head, you're trying to do fucking everything you can. Money's fucking tight, full stop. You're maybe already in debt, and then you have something like that happen where you go and buy, it's a fucking high ticket job. You go and buy 10 grand worth of materials, and fucking the plug gets pulled on it. It's like, yeah, the pressure of that's fucking insane, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. The stories I've heard is like unreal.
Yeah. Stomach churning stuff for sure. On the topic of, I mean, just can obviously mention kids, but it's, you also grew up single parent, like bringing me and Melissa up. Like it's something you've created a vision as a result of this where you want to help other single parents. But I mean, I've always spoke about it. Like, I've had Yanni Doinov on the podcast a couple of times. Know Yanni really well. Love him to bits. One of the most like humble, down to earth. I remember him saying to me, he was like, mate, like our parents, man, think about their lives. Think about what they had to go through and the pressures they had. Like, we are young in our 20s. We have no pressures. We have no commitments. We're in business. Like, we think we've got it tough, but we fucking don't. And I'm like, mate, you're so right. And it's, I think back to yourself, like being made redundant, having 2 kids to look after, not having much support as a like single parent. Obviously, you had Craig in your life, but Craig's not my dad, so he wasn't necessarily like staying with us or anything like that. And also, you hate asking for help, so that wasn't necessarily
quite bad for that.
That wasn't necessarily on the cards. But yeah, like what was that like? Like, running a business while being a single parent and the challenges of that.
Being a single parent in general is like one of the toughest things, and it's not talked about enough. Because you are doing the job of mum and dad, and it's like, but that was my choice to do that. So I'll never blame anybody else for being in that position because it was my choice to leave and take the 2 of you with me. So, the way I looked at it was, it is what it is, like you have to just get on with it and do what you can to make sure you and Melissa were clothed, had food on the table. I know I worked a lot. Luckily, I was really lucky I had my mum and dad, there to help look after you and Melissa. If it wasn't even for them, I wouldn't be with Craig either, because obviously Craig lived down south at the time. So it was difficult. And then with the business, it actually made me realise, like, as I touched on earlier, actually, about like having the full summer holidays, because Melissa was obviously still at school, as well. And yous were like, oh, this is the first summer like you've ever been here. And I felt like shit because I'm like, oh, okay, I've just worked all the time. Obviously, I had like, you have to keep a roof over your head. You have bills to pay and whatever. So yeah, it was tough. If I didn't have my mum and dad, I don't actually know where I would be, to be honest. Like, just, I think you just get to a point where, like, I'm very routine, as you know. Like, if I have an extra thing to do in the morning, I will get up an extra half an hour beforehand, because I'm like, right, okay, I have to do that before I leave. So I've always been a 5 a.m. riser anyway, like even before I started my business. Still do it now. But the reason I did that was so that I could get up in the mornings, do a bit of tidying up, a wee bit of housework, get ready, make sure you and Melissa were sorted, drop you at Grand's for 7, then I would go to work. Started my business. It was kind of the same, still, even though you were a lot older. Left the house, like, to go to BNI meetings at like, go and get the 4:30 bus in the morning, or 5 o'clock bus in the morning on a Tuesday morning. Yous were very independent as well, and I don't know if that was just because yous could see, like, I don't take the victim like mindset with
Yeah.
people. You know, so it's like, okay, why can't you do that?
Yeah.
Well, just get your act together and just fucking get it done. Like,
Yeah.
there's no excuse.
I think that coming from you, it holds a lot more weight due to you coming up as a like single parent. The weight that you did have on your shoulders. Because I think at times, well, there's a lot of times I'll have coaching calls with clients that I maybe feel like from a life experience standpoint, I don't quite have the life experience yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll pass those clients to you, and you'll be able to just tell them straight that like, look, man, like you need to make a decision on this, or even if it does happen the way that you think it is, you'll be fucking fine. Or like, because we've had clients in the past that went through similar stuff as with kids and stuff like that, and it's like, you know, you got up and left when, you know, when it was, I mean, I was what, 11 or something, 10 or 11 at the time. And you just took me, my little sister, Melissa, at 5 or 6, whatever stage, and you just went and found a place, packed everything up, and, you know, fucking moved. And it was just like, you know what, I'm taking this fucking weight on my shoulders and I'm just doing it. Whereas, and I think that's where it comes in when you're giving people advice or you're speaking about it. It's like you're speaking from lived experience. You actually done it.
Yeah, because that's the way, you know, I left with all her clothes, stuff for you, Melissa, and nothing else.
Yep.
I had to go to a charity place called Recap in Cumbernauld, and that's how I furnished the house, you know, because I didn't have anything. So that's how it's like either sit and greet about it or do something about it. So, and I think that's how I'm always like, I don't ask for help of people because I'm like, well, I done all this myself.
Yeah.
You know, I furnished all my house at a charity shop myself. Like, why do I need help?
Yep.
You know, and then you get people, you know, oh, like they talk about things and I'm like, there's people going through worse. You know, there is people going through worse. And don't get me, it was hard. You know, there was times where it was hard and I'm like, fuck, this is so difficult. You know, would it have been easier to stay with him? Absolutely. Like I would have that thought for a second and then I'd be like, absolutely fucking not. I've done the right thing. And that's what reassures me all the time because I'm always thinking, where would we be if I had stayed? Where would you and Melissa be? So, because I used to always think I failed you and Melissa by breaking up a family. And then when I look back and I'm like, no, actually, where would my kids be if I did fucking stay with him? You know? So yeah, I made the right decision. I know I did. And it's made me, I'm very resilient and a lot strong. You know, I do class myself as that.
There was a very good friend of mine that said recently that it's most people always choose the easy wrong over the hard right. And I think that's when I think about you, the easy wrong was the just stay.
Yeah.
Whereas the hard right, which like the crazy thing is I think about is that like you would have sat there doubting that for years.
I did.
Like people think like, oh, I've sat and felt like shit for like a few days or a few weeks or a few months. Like you literally would have questioned a decision that you made for years, probably close to a decade, before you actually went, you know what, no, I did make the fucking right decision. And that's definitely like how would that actually feel at the time though? Like if you were to try and explain that, like that kind of like doubt and
it's quite difficult. I think I just kept thinking about you and Melissa though. It was like, have I failed you and Melissa? You know, that's why the doubt came in, not because of the way I was treated or anything like that. It was, you know, people choose to live in situations which aren't good for them. And that's entirely their choice. But all I kept thinking about is like, why would I want you and Melissa living in those situations? And I was lucky enough to, I mean, I'll never forget that morning, jumped in my car driving to work and I'm like, no, I'm done. I am taking my kids and we are done. And it was the best decision I ever made.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, there has been times where I'm like, it would have probably just been easier.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no.
Because I always think about like financially, like you would have, I didn't know it at the time, but you were literally living month to month.
Yeah. Well, sorry. I didn't get any help financially from him either. So, and I had a really good job as well. So I didn't, yeah, I lived month to month, made sure the bills were paid, and stupidly, like, this is where Craig would have came in,
Yeah.
you know, like saving and all that kind of thing. Even if I had 100 quid left at the end of the month, I'd be like, right, come on, kids, let's go and spend some money. I get paid tomorrow.
Yep.
Instead of saving it,
Yeah.
you know, which was a bit silly, but, you know, it is what it is. But,
Yeah.
you know, I'm proud to say that I raised Jews like in every aspect,
Yeah.
you know. So
One thing I did write down was the masculine and feminine piece, which me and you've spoken a good amount. I've spoken about in the podcast. Like you have a lot of masculine traits. You take no shit. You like are super fucking independent. Like all things that sometimes when you're a young guy can grow up in a single parent household, they don't acquire those traits, and they can maybe be a bit softer. They don't like conflict. They avoid hard conversations, and it's not through any fault of the parents. Just the fact that there's no father figure in play. Whereas I remember, I don't know what age it was, but I got a Father's Day figure, a Father's Day card.
yeah, I do remember.
And it's because you did actually play, like, you played the masculine role that was required. Like you were kind and caring when it was required, but also when I was taking the piss, it was communicated and it was corrected. And I think the you danced between the masculine and feminine really well, whereas majority of young guys growing up, like that's not the case at all, and it doesn't happen. And then as a result, when they grow older, it materializes in different ways.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know. There's no really any question in that. It's just more
Yeah.
like just that observation from my perspective,
Mhm.
which I think is something that I don't know if you have any advice maybe around it. If there is maybe any parents or listener.
I don't know, because being a parent in general is one of the toughest things ever.
Yeah.
I think, like, there's no rights or wrongs, or, you know, everybody parents differently. And I think sometimes I used to think I overcompensated because you didn't have a father in the house and things like that. And I think I was a constant worrier, and I don't know if it was because I was the sole person that was responsible for you, Melissa.
Yeah.
And I know that we'll have like conversations or jokes around, you know, like I didn't allow parties and things like that, but I think it's just because I worried
Yeah.
about absolutely everything.
Yeah.
You know, like as soon as you walked out that door, even when you've got your cars, I'm like, oh my God, like they've now got a car. Like that's another thing to worry about, driving. And yeah, it's just the way I was, I think.
Yeah. Which you realise as well, like the language of like worrying all the time.
Mm.
It's not until you come into business you get exposed to like different trainings and different concepts where you're like, fuck man, like I was really like making myself feel like shit about something that was probably fine.
Yeah.
As well. So yeah, it's mental, but I genuinely, I mean, I've not got kids yet, but I've it's something that I speak to a lot of young guys, young girls about from the uncommon perspective that will naturally come in conversation where, yeah, we're talking about business, but when we start to talk about vision, what we want to achieve, who we want to achieve it for, like they all have dreams of having kids, and it's something that, yeah, people need to be aware of.
Mhm.
So yeah, is there any, I don't know, like lessons that stick out to you, whether it's from the single parent time period or just like business in general that you think is worth sharing?
Shout for help if you need it.
Yeah.
Like absolutely no question is a stupid question, which is a well-known saying that loads of people say. If you don't know something or unsure about something, you ask, you just shout. You know, it's like finding that person that's been through the same stuff as well.
Yep.
You know, it's like, you know, just getting people to let people see your vulnerable side, I think.
Mm.
As well, but asking for help. And if your gut is telling you, no, I shouldn't do something, don't do it until you do more research or questions and things like that. Because 9 times out of 10, your gut's always right.
Yeah. On the vulnerability piece, like how does one become more vulnerable if you've never been vulnerable before?
Oh, probably the trust. The trust comes into that, I think.
Yep.
You know, because like for example, try to think of like trades guys, for example, not the trades cohort in particular,
Yeah.
trades guys, and I speak to a lot of trades guys, you know, and it's just when you talk about your experiences of stuff, that is when people do start to show a bit of vulnerability.
Yep.
You know, and I'll get a lot of trades guys talking about, you know, oh, my wife's told me to do that. And I'm like, well, listen to your wife, you know, or they've got marital problems, like that comes out. And I'm like, God, they're actually trusting me to like tell me that kind of thing. Because men, and no disrespect to men, they do hold a lot in and don't talk to people. And I think that's something that should be, people should be more open to have. People get too busy to talk as well. So
What do you
just
think
trust
people are
them.
worried about when it comes to being vulnerable?
Judgment, probably.
Yeah.
Judgment. I think we all kind of have that
Yep.
fear sometimes of being judged about stuff.
Yeah, I think perception as well, like
Mhm.
that, like what you imagine it looking like, the conversation in your mind is never like what you actually imagined it to be.
Mm.
And there's I guess, beliefs as well as that are built up. Like if we think
Yeah.
about like Granda as an example, it's like, you know, I couldn't imagine Granda being vulnerable. But if we
God,
grow up,
no.
do you know what I mean? It's like if we grow up in that environment, it's very easy for generationally for that to be kind of fed down, as well. So yeah, it's a very interesting topic. 'Cause I think vulnerability, especially when you're young, you're in business, you're elements of naivety. Like there is no other way to move forward apart from asking help. You can't ask for help. Yes, you can go and learn these things yourself. It just takes longer, man.
Yeah. Because I mean, I've done that.
Yeah.
I was sitting working stuff out and I'm like, oh, fuck's sake, I could lift the phone to so and so. Like, why have I not done that?
Aye.
You know, but even I know there's it's mostly guys, it's in the uncommon and things like that. And I don't mean just talk to the guys in the uncommon, or, you
Yep.
know, that's where people maybe don't want to open up and things
Yep.
like that sometimes. A lot of the guys in the in the uncommon, you know, like are really open
Yeah.
about stuff.
Yep.
But if all I can say is like if you're ever in a position where you feel you can't,
Yep.
is go and chat your mate's door.
Yep.
Chat to your mum and dad, you know, like just get that conversation out there, you know, if you feel like shit about anything,
Yep.
you know, is like talk about it.
I think as well, when you meet somebody, you've maybe known them for a short space of time, like it's not like you're going to start fucking trauma dumping on them all the shit that you've been
Yeah.
through, but there is aspects as well where, like, I think about like Jude Fredman, who runs Die Without Regrets. Like when I first met Jude 4 years ago, within 20 minutes, me and him were both speaking about our therapy experiences, and it's like sometimes you can't quite quantify why
Yeah.
you feel like you can open up to someone, but it's actual trust in that as well, and being like, you know what, I probably feel this way for a reason. Like fuck it, and having the conversation. I genuinely think like the relationship me and Jude has got now has came from the first 20 minutes in our conversation. We're speaking about therapy. It's like if you're so closed off all the time, you don't open the door to having
Yeah.
conversations like that too. So yeah, I mean, I'm curious in terms of what's the plan is to exit. Like, is there, in terms of getting there, what does that kind of path look like?
Well, the next 2 years, that's like that. The end of the next December 2027 is kind of what I'm looking at. Is getting everything consistent, basically, organic lead flow.
Yep.
One step at a time. I'm not going to do everything quick. You know, I just want to do things one step at a time. Get everything ready. I think you do have to kind of start talking to people like within about 9 months before you kind of want to
Yep.
sell, just to, because there could be stuff that you need to do. It's not a quick
Yep.
process.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just doing everything one step at a time, getting that all ready, speaking to the right people, and then moving on to
Nice.
newer things.
100%. I think just like you spoke about it before, if we can get the consistent lead gen machine firing, we're not allowed to turn it off anymore.
Yeah.
It just stays on 24/7 even when you're away. Sales, once also put a new sales process in place, we'll trial it, gather the data, which is something I was going to say in the salesy piece. I think anyone listening that feel like, you know, worries about those things like rejection and stuff like that, like ultimately those things don't matter, man. Like just think about the data, look at the close rate, look at the number of people that are showing up to the calls, look at the number of leads that you're generating that are actually booking in the calls, and just establish where the leak is across those points and just make it data driven. And if you're struggling with shit like that, man, it's like just message people, man. Ask for help. Like, look, man, I've never spoken to you before, but I can tell from your socials that you're pretty fucking dialed when it comes to sales. It's okay if I be open and honest and ask you a question like my lead to appointment rate. I'm getting all these leads in, but fucking barely any of them are actually showing up to the calls. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, I highly doubt if you messaged the right person that they would just ignore you as well.
Yeah.
So
No, I know.
In terms of like putting that to the audience, it's like just they need to just fucking ask for help sometimes as well. So yeah. In terms of where people can find you.
On Instagram, it's Alison Custom Contracts. On TikTok, I've got 3 pages on TikTok for different things. I think it's just Custom Contracts for the contracts one. LinkedIn, Alison Archer.
Yep.
That's it. That's where you'll find me.
You post regular content, not just about contract, well, not just about business in general.
No.
What is the other stuff that you post?
Yeah, I started kind of putting out there, you know, around my business journey mindset.
Yeah.
Like, because I just think it's massive. Menopause.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about that. So yeah, that's kind of all the stuff that I talk about.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Mother. It's been a good chat, a good hour and 15. Like, a lot of people will get to know you more as well, because I know it's something we spoke about in terms of.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's difficult through just social media and just being on kind of like live group calls as well. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Trips, if you're on Spotify, we've also got episodes rolling out regularly. Make sure you drop a follow, let us know what you thought of the episodes. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, same old story. But yeah, whatever day that you're having, I hope it's been an even better day off the back of this episode. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.